The idea of reincarnation. Wanted some elaboration on it. So we will give you a perspective, if you will, on what happens upon the idea of reincarnation. Many of you have an idea of fear, and we will elaborate on that fear. That fear would be, what happens to me? The idea of your personality complex, the one you wake up to every day, is going to diminish upon your departation from that of the physical idea. Here's what it is. There is no, let's say, forgetting who you are. There's a choice involved, and we will once again dig into it. The choice is this. When you remember that you are the individual singularity upon your de-emanation, or ascension, either way, and you know that you are God, and you realize through your journey back to the isness of all, your personality becomes you, and you become the idea of your, let's say, all that is self. In the case of George, which many of you remember, George chose to continue the fractal idea of George. Took that, let's say, expression of remembrance as an individual singularity and continued that fractal idea. However, George realizes he's God as well, much like you will realize you're the individual God as well. Here's the difference. George took himself to continue. Here's the option. George remembers that part of his idea experience and doesn't continue to, let's say, energize George in all that is. The higher self, which is still George, says, no, I'm not going to continue this personality. That personality is not broken up or doesn't disappear. It's a memory. Much like you are remembering your past self in the different space-time now of this incarnation. Remember when you were a child in high school or that of kindergarten or, let's say, a job that you were. That's not who you are now. It's a memory. It's the same idea. So, when you understand reincarnation now, first, understand that you never disappear. If you continue your own personality, A, awesome. B, you use it in the idea of a memory. That's all it is. You don't forget yourself. That kind of idea. If you move on to reincarnation, you have another few options. Your higher self says, I would love to go back. But the person that you are never goes back, just like you are never not here right now. A fractal of you is here. You didn't forget. You take another incarnation, a fractal of yourself, find the idea of, let's say, a co-creation to allow a birth in that idea, and then that fractal forgets. You don't. You can't forget because you are you. Ta-da! Now, if you have another choice, we'll give you this. You continue the personality of, let's go with George. George can fractal himself through that idea to experience directly the idea of forgetfulness and receiving all of the understandings of that fractal entity and all the probabilities of life. The higher self is getting it as well, but the higher self doesn't need to focus on it. That kind of idea. You're using all of you to experience in all the nows. That's how large you are. So if you choose to fractalize yourself from the idea of reincarnation, remember, you do not forget yourself. You can't. You start a, let's say, start this. This is going to be odd for you because you guys are playing with the idea of time. You start a new idea of yourself in a fractalized, but it's still all now, just from a different perspective, as we always said. So that fractal becomes time, if you will, because it is now in the illusion of participation of time, that kind of idea. So don't get too hung up on what it is going to be, rather, if you de-emanate and have a fear upon what happens in reincarnation and you have to do it all again. It's like, damn, I don't want to do this again. You don't. You're not doing it again right now. The fractal that hasn't experienced this from the perspective of that remembrance is doing it. You are not. Remember this. So reincarnation is a choice for many, 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 many entities because it is a great rodeo. And then there is like the idea upon the last rodeo and not choose any portion of yourself to fractalize again and co-create with that of humanity. It is a choice. And that idea, maybe go away for a couple of eons and come back again when humanity is in a different space-time now. But it's truly not a couple of eons to you. It's now from over there. Down here, it might be a couple of eons. And then you reflect, I haven't been here in a long time. But truly, it happened right now.